Welcome to this morning's Paper Talk, where we look over some of today's major talking points across today's newspapers, and we are joined by broadcaster Sophie Nicolaou and the Guardian's Jonathan Liew. Good morning to both of you. Great to see you both today. And there is one place to start, that is at Old Trafford. The Daily Express highlighting a mixed night for Manchester United, who picked up an impressive win over Tottenham, but more drama with Cristiano Ronaldo, and they use the headline right and wrong. They say United in the groove, but Ronaldo is in a huff. We're going to get to that in a moment, but Jonathan, specifically on their performance, how impressed were you with that? Let's start with a positive.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of probably United's most complete performances of the season. They dominated the first half. I think something like 27 shots to 9 over the course of the match. And, as poor as Spurs were, there really seemed to be a kind of cohesion and a drive and an energy to them. Bruno Fernandes looks pretty much back to his best. I think he was stung by, a bit of the criticism that he's been receiving earlier in the season. And, from front to back, defensively they look solid, and the press, which kind of really pinned Spurs back in their own half and prevented them from creating anything. That was, I think, it showed that it's working. Whatever Ten Hag is doing is beginning to bear fruit for them.
And with Ronaldo then, Sophie, he went down the tunnel before full time. They still had some substitutions to make. He was still on the bench, but he left the pitch. We haven't been given any reasons as to why. But this Ronaldo drama, it seems to be, how does it end?
I think it only ends one way. Most Manchester United fans don't kind of want to have such a great performance last night marred by another Ronaldo drama. Look, he's one of the greatest players of all time. He has been sensational in his career, but it's just not been working out this season at Manchester United, and Ten Hag has different expectations. I liken this a little bit, Tom, to what happened at Arsenal. Mikel Arteta had to make a really big decision about Aubameyang, and of course Ronaldo's on different levels compared to other players. But once he eliminated Aubameyang from the dressing room, we saw how Arsenal went on, scored more goals in that December. Actually, they scored 21 goals, and the team started playing more like a team. It didn't matter about the name on the back of your shirt, and I think Ten Hag is that type of manager too. Is he going to have the bravery to cut ties and walk away from this? Because it was a really good performance from United last night, and to have the headlines be about this drama with Ronaldo again seems a shame for Manchester United fans.
Yeah, I feel quite sorry for him, really. I mean, and it's not an emotion I've generally associated with Ronaldo over the years. But I mean, this is a guy who nobody owes him a starting place in a big team. But this is also kind of one thing he's good at. He's kind of dominated this game for years, and now he's sitting on the bench in the 89th minute, and his time is slipping away. And I just felt kind of this incredible pathos that he's only got 1 or 2 years left, maybe at the top level. Maybe he's not he's not even at that level anymore, and just to see this time leaking away. It was real. I mean, you can call him petulant or a drama queen or whatever, but this is United knew who they were signing. You might not want Mick Jagger in your band, but if you do sign him up, you don't get him to play the tambourine. So I think they're in a real pickle because Ten Hag clearly has no use for him, and I don't really see where he goes from here, to be honest.
But will it be down to Ten Hag though, ultimately, Jonathan, because his value isn't just on the pitch. Commercially, he brings a lot to any club that he's at. Is it better for Manchester United, even if Ten Hag doesn't want him, that he stays?
Well, I mean, United are doing fine. We're doing fine commercially before he joined. I don't think they need him for commercial reasons, especially not if he's kind of unbalancing the team, creating unnecessary headlines, and especially if he doesn't fit into that, the vision of a kind of a high energy pressing team that not just Ten Hag but most elite European coaches want to play these days. So that's not a reason to keep him, but also it does mean that it's going to be really hard for them to move him on, because there isn't really, you need a team as dysfunctional as United were when they signed him to take him on, and that's a kind of an increasingly vanishing number these days.
Just to add to that, managers have been under scrutiny this week about behaviour and being, a shining example for not only, referees in lower leagues, younger players, fans. And that example that he set, if you're a Manchester United Academy player or a younger player coming through, that is not how you are a team player. He is a seasoned veteran. He's one of the best that's ever played the game. He knows better than that. And that act was very selfish. And I don't think Ten Hag, I think that may have been the straw that broke the camel's back for Ten Hag. That was not setting a great example, especially to younger players.
A quick one on Tottenham. They lost away at Manchester United. Other rivals around them, like Arsenal, they lost away at Arsenal. They did get a draw away at Chelsea, in fairness, and they haven't played any of their rivals up at the top at home so far this season. So is it fair to say that they're struggling against the top teams when they've all been away and they did get that 1 point?
Yeah, I mean, they haven't looked that good this season, to be fair, and results have actually been outpacing performances, and it may well be that results are slightly beginning to catch up with them now. Because that, when you're playing in that counter-attacking style, where you're maybe you're gonna soak up so much pressure, and you're maybe going to get 1 or 2 good chances at the other end. It's such a high wire style of playing. You need so many things to go right for you. And Conte switched to a 3-5-2 last night. He bolstered the midfield, and that system might take a bit more time to bed in. But at the moment, it doesn't seem like there's a real conviction about them. Lots of kind of pointless passing around the back, lots of kind of negative decisions. So I think if you're a Spurs fan, you'd probably be slightly worried about the direction, even though they're still riding pretty high in the league.
Antonio Conte seems to be whining again a little bit. He's sounding a little whiny anyway. Doesn't seem like Tottenham have a plan B when things aren't going right, Jonathan. I don't know what you think about that, but also not using substitutions. Clearly, they were missing Richarlison in this game. But, it's funny because their rivals, Arsenal, have been criticised for who have they played yet Tottenham are losing to those top teams. And it seems like their best start in the Premier League comes with a little bit of negativity, and that's that style of football. Most Tottenham fans aren't happy with the type of football that Conte's playing. Of course, it's yielded success in the past in other clubs that he's been at. And you wonder if that Juventus rumour is something that is playing a part here. But Manchester United, don't take anything away from what they did last night. The game should be more about what they did versus what Tottenham didn't do.
Yeah, and I think Conte, right from the start, really has been almost quite disparaging about the level of the squad that he's inherited. He was talking all summer. He was moaning about the transfers and not getting enough transfers done. Going back to January actually, and you could, that kind of thing rubs off on a team. If a player is hearing that your manager's not satisfied with the quality of his squad and wants to bring new people in, that's kind of, it can have a slightly demotivating effect on you, and you can see that kind of in the way Tottenham are playing. It's more like they're worried about not making a mistake than actually trying to create something. And that's kind of filtering through to the whole team at the moment.
Right, from Tottenham to Arsenal, they're not in league action this week. They face PSV in the Europa League tonight. The Daily Mirror are carrying Mikel Arteta's claims that he'll be resting his players only after they seal top spot in their group. That means that they would get to skip the round of 32. I mean, that makes perfect sense, of course, being able to give them a rest, hopefully for them. But Sophie, I actually want to ask you about something else, because reports off the pitch suggest that Arsenal technical director Edu has been offered jobs by at least 2 big European clubs. How important is he to Arsenal's future?
Well, I think he's very important, and I think the club have made it very clear that he is a major part of what happens at the club in the coming years. He arrived in 2019. He inherited a mess. And when he actually, in the summer, he talked about when he arrived at the club that everybody seemed a little relaxed and they were accepting of that. You're talking about a player who was part of the Invincibles, played with some of the best players in an era that is unforgettable for the Arsenal. And together with Mikel Arteta, they've completely transformed the club, from the culture to the player profile, DNA, and the type of players that we're acquiring now in the market. They talk about these 2 clubs. Fabrizio Romano is the one that's broken the story. However, there's no link to what clubs they are. They say that, you know, they're interested in talking to him, but Arsenal are not going to let Edu go. And I don't think he wants to go. This is a project that's only just gotten started, really. And we're starting to see the fruits of their labor this season, Tom. So Edu stays, and Arsenal are going to have to deal with these types of offers. Mikel Arteta is probably going to be somebody who's going to be sought after in the near future as well. But the two of them together have totally transformed and evolved Arsenal to new levels. And let's hope that continues this season.
Yeah, you certainly will be hoping that continues, of course, and that you keep them both. Right, we're going to move on to the Times very quickly, right, because a number of papers actually highlight fresh plans for the European Super League. We were reporting it yesterday. This time, it's being reported that the dominance of the Premier League is being used as justification to attempt a relaunch. Right, Jonathan, at this stage, does it seem like in some format a European Super League is inevitable?
Well, the clubs involved are extremely confident that obviously there's a pending court case, against UEFA, and they are extremely confident that they can sort of, that they can get their project off the ground again. The interesting thing, with this story is how they've tried to frame it, and what that the Super League is being presented as a kind of bulwark against the power of the Premier League. I mean, there's a line in there about how this is a dossier that was kind of distributed to clubs that might be interested. That almost Premier League money is kind of tainted, and it said they're mostly owned by hedge funds and billionaires and oligarchs, and it's not like Atletico Madrid are part owned by an Israeli billionaire and an American investment firm. Inter Milan are owned by Suning. It's not like European money is kind of is pure. So that's interesting. I thought the framing of it is that they're trying to position the Super League almost as a rival to the Premier League. And the thing to remember is that the Premier League clubs are bound. They're constitutionally bound. They changed the rules after the plot a couple of years ago, and so they're not allowed to join a Super League unless all 20 clubs join. And as much as I'd love to see Brentford in a European Super League, I don't think it's going to happen. So there's a kind of deadlock at the moment with this court case coming up, and I think they're essentially trying to they're trying to get it back on the table, but it's going to take a little bit of persuasion and quite a bit of coercion.
Yeah, right, Jonathan, Sophie, magnificent this morning. Great to see you both, and see you next time. Plenty more still to come on Good Morning Sports fans, including more from last night's NBA. Plus, don't forget